Hey everyone, it's Kale from Scud Style, and today I'm going to be bringing a video that I think is really important for anyone who is giving retention or NoFap a try, because what I get from a lot of people and what I've kind of noticed is a hesitation is that sex in the West especially is pervasive in our culture. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And how can one try to avoid indulging in sex constantly, whether it's by yourself or with someone else, when we are just pretty much swimming in sexuality? It's everywhere. And I did another video on this a few months ago about a meditation to kind of not avoid these things but release them. But today I want to talk about how there's a huge link between sex and aggression. And this is something I've been thinking about for 10 years since, not thinking about like I think now, but so 10 years ago I was studying Freud. And Freud's whole bit is, the id, and there's this whole, at the base of all human drive, right, the basal reptilian brain and all that kind of stuff is sex and aggression, and there are lots of other evolutionary psychologists that are talking about, as an animal, humans' base urges are survival and replication, which makes sense. So today I just wanted to do a super quick primer. I want to make a much longer detailed series about this, or at least video about this, but I wanted to get into this now. It's just a little bit of primer and food for thought for those of you who are kind of thinking this way or struggling with it. So the reason I want to get into it is because we are also in our culture completely subject to violence everywhere. I mean, MMA culture is getting much bigger. Look at our movies, and think about how sexy the guy who can kill everyone is. Think about, even in our sex culture, how much violence is really in there. How there are all kinds of violent fetishes and BDSM and stuff like that. And the whole, people like to get super dominated or super submissive or whatever. These are all elements of violence within sex. And there are lots of studies actually to support, in animals anyway, in mice and fruit flies, that in areas, well, in mice anyway, fruit flies don't have brains like this, but in the areas of the amygdala and hypothalamus, there are clusters of neurons that control the sex drive and sexuality, and the same group of neurons controls violence. So it's pretty clear, all this stuff hasn't been done on humans yet, but it's pretty clear that those are intrinsically linked. And those two parts of the brain, they're actually very ancient, very animalistic parts of the brain, which again reinforces the fact that for humans it is a base kind of thing. And we are more civilized than we ever have been. We're not living in caves, fighting over mates, killing each other. But there are these still inherent base evolutionary reptilian drives within us. So it's also shown that animals in nature, the ones that are more sexual are more aggressive. Think about the dominant or the alpha male of a pack. They're going to be killing other of their kind to compete for mates, and etc. Just think about the mating process for a lot of animals and a lot of insects in general. A lot of them are biting during mating. The mating in a lot of animals starts the same as a fight or violence would break out, with a lot of sniffing, a lot of getting to know the scent, a lot of pheromones, a lot of things like that. And then think for a lot of animals and for a lot of insects, they kill their mate afterwards. A lot of insects especially, I can think of, mate and then either kill, decapitate their mate, or eat their mate so that they have more nutriment so that they can produce the offspring and stuff. There's a lot of links between sexuality and violence. So as that relates to us today in our culture, in a lot of ways you say, or I'm hearing people, or even sometimes it comes across my own mind, is that, we are just completely immersed in sexuality. How can we possibly avoid it? Or how can we possibly exist without indulging in it on a regular basis as some form of release, right? And the answer is the same way that we can kind of transcend violence. Some of us can't, right? But a lot of us on a higher level, we want to transcend it. Just because someone pisses you off or says something to you or wrongs you doesn't mean you kill them, right? We might have an urge to hit someone or to strangle someone or at different times. But we don't act on those things, right? And that's what makes us civilized humans that transcend. We experience an urge, right? We experience it. And then we recognize it as, an overreaction, and we let it go. And the same can happen with sexuality. You recognize an urge, and you're not just like, oh man, I'm just so aroused right now, I just have to. No, you can recognize that kind of arousal and that urge, right? And then just like you'd let go the violent thought and not indulge in it and not like take someone's head off, you let it go, right? These are very similar processes in our brain. They're very similar processes in our lives, and they exist in equal levels. I mean, think about action movies. I mean, violence is everywhere. If you start looking for violence in our society, you'll see it probably more so than you'll see sex. But look at how they're related. I invite you guys to kind of play around with this idea. And so don't use cultural amount of sex presented to you all the time that you can't control as an excuse to give in to all these urges, because if you are looking to transcend that and to get to a higher level of consciousness and transformative energy, and you want to become the new best version of yourself, then don't start at the bottom evolutionarily. Let's rise above it. Let's transcend together. So good luck, everyone. I hope to see you guys soon.